and what is this session about, and then go about the session.
All right, great. Thanks, Deepthi. Thanks, everyone, for joining in. Um, so my name is Anshuman, and I work for K15T, and I lead products. At K15T, we are a Platinum Atlassian Marketplace partner. Been there since the inception of Marketplace. In fact, probably before that, we were one of the first to have an app in the Marketplace. So a long time Confluence users, Confluence champions, and borderline Confluence fanatics. But yeah, and that basically we want to we love Confluence. We use it for pretty much everything. If it were entirely possible, we'd probably just use Confluence to do everything that Jira does, which is probably the opposite of how it is used. So yeah, we with this session, what I wanted to do was kind of bring in a little bit of that passion for Confluence and share it with the community. So the session is called 10 Ways to Use Confluence at its Best, but obviously 10 ways is still not enough. But what I would try to do in this session over the next 30 to 40 minutes, is to share an array of ways and functionality that we have discovered is really useful, and they will be across the board. So they would go from like Confluence 101 to some of the advanced functionality. We'll target people who are just starting out, people who are admins in their organizations, and people who are casual users, power users, and so on. But one thing I would like to do is, I don't know if people have the option to have audio conversations. If not, I would love for this to be an interactive session within the limits of this application here. So at any point, if you have questions, please already ask them. And what I would also love from everyone here is to actually understand use cases and tips and tricks that you have discovered at any point, sort of kind of sharing that as well. And let's have this conversation and learn from each other. So yeah, with that, I would jump into the presentation, unless there's any other organizational stuff that needs to happen. All right, perfect. Awesome. All right, then let's dive in. I hope, just a quick check, everyone can see the screen, which shows a large Confluence icon. Perfect. All right, so like I said, I mean, we've been using Confluence for a long time. It's an extremely powerful tool, but the problem Confluence has is sort of a image problem that I think. Confluence is like the forgotten sibling of Jira, and everyone I've talked to, people know Jira, some people know Confluence, some people use Confluence, but it kind of gets overshadowed by its more popular or overachieving sibling, that is Jira. But when it comes to Confluence, there are a bucket of features. So it has a lot of capabilities, and I could possibly, like I said, there's more than 10 different ways of using Confluence to its best. But I'll focus on 10 that we have found useful. But at any point, probably not during this session, but after this, I could also encourage you to go to our YouTube channel, where we do share a lot of this content around Confluence. Starting sort of, you can have anyone who's just starting out with Confluence till Confluence Pros. We have content across the board. So do check that out. My colleagues put in a lot of hard work and love and passion into those content. So do check them out. And probably the purpose or the motivation for this presentation and this particular piece of content is not just an advertisement of the functionality. It is more about kind of having this conversation and opening up people's and minds about the way different ways Confluence can be used. So there's a mix of functionality, use cases, and all of that. In fact, we are here probably because we want to learn more. We want to make sure that the limited time, resources, budget that we have, that we can make use of the tools that we have to the best possible ways. And in fact, last year, or maybe the year before, I actually did a session at a team called Jugaad. Is bringing in the sort of innate sense of let's make shit happen with Confluence. So it's about using Confluence in interesting ways. So you can check that out as well. So bringing that, all tying that in, let's dive into 10 different ways to make the best use of Confluence. And the first way is to actually rethink Confluence. It's sort of getting into that philosophical level. Like I said, Confluence has kind of an image problem. It tends to have an image problem, right? So it's about like, how do we position Confluence first to kind of appreciate what it can do, and then taking that to our teams, to our organization, to our leadership, and having that conversation of like, we need to rethink Confluence, that it is just more than just a wiki, just a dump yard and a graveyard of information, and maybe meeting notes pages and probably a few other content here and there. Right. So the starting is like, we have to change our mindset around Confluence, and then take that to the teams. Now, when we think of Confluence, a lot of you might have started out with Confluence on cloud, but for the old timers who have seen Confluence evolve from the server days to to cloud, I've met a lot of people who are still stuck on sort of the server version of the product. Rest in peace, Confluence Server. But over the years, the Confluence team has actually pumped in a lot of functionality and improvements to Confluence, and especially on cloud, right? So over the last few years, Confluence team has made sure that the tool evolves from just being a wiki into sort of more of a work management and knowledge management tool, and adding functionality that really helps you push collaboration further, right? So there have been new tools and functionality introduced, like whiteboards, automations, AI, databases, different kinds of content, to kind of make sure that Confluence evolves beyond just being a tool for documentation or documenting your meeting notes, to being a true collaboration tool across the board within the organization for all kinds of team, and not just your software teams. So that's basically the first way, like really looking at Confluence, really rediscovering Confluence for ourselves, and then taking it back to our team. So somebody asked what YouTube channel. You just look for K15T on YouTube. I think our handle is K15T. So you will find all of our videos there. All right. The second way to use, and this is kind of one of those very obvious ones, and there might be people in the audience thinking, inline comments, what's the big deal about it? But it's not just about inline comment as a functionality, right? Inline comment, this goes way beyond that. So comments in general, in a tool like Confluence, and if you've used similar knowledge management tools and documentation tools, you would appreciate the fact that something like inline comment or commenting is the heart of collaboration, right? So you can put all of your content there. You can, lock yourself in a door, in a room, and write all of this content. But the beauty of a tool like Confluence comes from the fact that it is collaborative, and that's why something like comments adds a lot of power to a tool like this. And when I first heard about this, and when we were kind of putting this presentation together, my first instinct was also like, really, inline comments? But I think we were talking to some Atlassians, and they shared some stat, and it was like almost 60% of users don't know that something like this is possible, right? um, which was mind blowing. So I think if we want to get started with Confluence and really use it well, inline comments and comments in general are the first thing to go, which bring in everyone on your team. Write that blog post, write that PRD, write that, have that meeting note and make some decisions. But bring in collaborators, just kind of select a text, at mention people, and there you go, and start having conversation. And what Confluence has done is, over the years, they have also really improved the commenting experience as well. So now you can not only comment in the reading mode of the page, but you have the inline comments available when you are editing the page as well. Something that our server or DC customers, I think, recently got to experience. But beyond that, you have multiple ways to express yourselves. It has the rich rich text functionality, so you can you can react to the messages, you can add your GIFs, your images, your videos, and other content in the comments itself. So it kind of becomes the hub and the heart and soul of collaboration on different kinds of content in Confluence. Now, so if you're starting out, if you are the sort of Confluence champion within your organization, keep this top of your mind. Use it yourself, and sort of spread it around. Talk to people, tell them to use it, bring them into the conversation, and teach them about it. Put it in your training materials, and sort of really make use of the different commenting operations that is available in Confluence. The next way, or the next feature that I want to talk about, is smart links. Now, so there's the era sort of before smart links and after smart links. All right, how many inline comments can be added per page? There is no limit to it, Ramesh. So you can add as many as possible. You can then resolve comments as well. They don't have to stay permanently on your pages. And in fact, we do have some content and videos specifically dedicated to commenting best practices on our channel as well. But when you add more, how the UI looks like. So the way, if you comment, or if you select certain portion of the content and then comment, it usually gets a yellow highlight, so that you know that there is a comment on the pages. And if you are commenting on images within the pages, you will see a little comment icon on the sort of right top corner of an image. So yeah, I mean, if you comment on everything, you will see a lot of yellow highlights, but that's where one of the best practices is there, that do get through those comments and resolve them. So you will see the highlights, and on clicking on the highlights, you will see the comments on a panel on the right-hand side of the page. Confluence better performance, that's a whole different topic and a rabbit hole, perhaps for another day, but definitely something to consider. All right, ways to collapse and expand inline comments. I'm not sure if I get it, but I mean, the default state is collapsed. You won't see them. Only if you click on sort of the yellow highlight, you will see the comments on the right. And it's basically kind of a threaded experience. So there's the primary comment, and everything else goes below it. If you talk about collapsing and expanding in terms of how you see that on a forum or like Reddit or something, that is not possible. It's sort of a single level comment. So one primary comment and all the responses go below that. So you can't thread more comments. Sort of you can't respond to a response of a comment, and you can, but it won't appear as a threaded conversation, at least with inline comments. All right, moving on to smart links. So there's an era before smart links and after smart links, right? And these are kind of a relatively recent addition to Confluence, especially Confluence Cloud. And what this has done is it kind of revolutionized a lot of, or it has taken away the need to create a lot of custom applications. I remember we had developed, we had these reports, and we have in Google, I'm forgetting what it used to be called, all these reports, and we wanted to, if we wanted to use it or link it within Confluence, we had to develop a small app. We used to do Jira reporting, right? So we would create release notes, and the release note, we will have a list of issues that went into that release. And I'm forgetting why we did that, but there was probably a good reason for it. But we had to develop a very small app that would then, where we would provide it with the version number, and it'll pull in all the issues and display on the Confluence page. And there were a lot of those little sort of applications that we had built in order to bring in or pull in information into Confluence. And with Smart Links, that entire need has gone. So we don't have to maintain or create such small applications. And what Smart Links then does is basically pull in or copy a link from your application, paste it on a Confluence page, and then it unfurls and displays that information within an iframe itself. It is interactive and pretty dynamic, so you can have your Trello board in a Confluence page. If you can have your Miro board or a whiteboard, put it on a Confluence page. So it kind of brings the whole world of information into Confluence, adding to that fundamental need for making sure that all of your information kind of lives in one place and that people don't have to context switch as much. Smart Links is not available on DC, and as far as I know, it probably won't be available on DC, but I don't want to speak for the Atlassian team, but that's the glass half empty Anshuman response. All right, and what this also does is, like, if you have Google Drive links, you have your any sort of shared file storage system, you can simply add the Smart Link to the page, and you will get all of that information within Confluence. Right, so no matter where information and files live, you can all bring it into one place and have them all live where it kind of makes most sense. And very recently, Atlassian also added the ability to add smart links to your content tree as well. So you're not just adding pages here in your Confluence spaces, but within the content tree, you can add a smart link, and it will render that within this section. So if you have a Google Drive folder or anything else, you can simply add that link here. So if you're creating like a marketing assets section here, you can just simply copy the link of your marketing assets folder that lives on Google Drive, and you will see all of those files here. You will be able to interact with them and probably also be able to open, read, and download them. And this applies to your Google Docs, your spreadsheets, your notes, and all of that. So I think there are more than 1,000 applications that are supported by Smart Links. So the general idea of this was to kind of make Confluence the single source of truth, and this kind of takes it 1 inch closer to that vision. Version control, document change control, great topic. We would love to talk about that because we actually work in that space. Some of our apps also help us do that. But maybe let us connect after this. I would not cover it in the scope of this presentation, but if we have time in the end, I can try and answer some of specific questions around that topic as well. Authentication with Smart Links works based on your access within the application that you have linked in. So if you don't have access to the folder or the file that you have added as a Smart Link, you will not be able to see that content. All right, this one is for the admins in the audience here. Can we get a quick check how many admins are there here? All right, so I mean, apps in Confluence are very common. So Smart Links helps you kind of replace some of those integration challenges that you might have had, and creating sort of these smaller and creating and maintaining these smaller apps. But what it doesn't do is basically it doesn't entirely replace the need for apps. And apps are how you kind of augment uh, the possibilities of use cases that Confluence solves, right? So like I said, like smart links will pull in the information from some of these different applications. But let's say you wanted to have advanced version control, or you wanted to have better PDF exports, or you wanted to do I don't know, requirements engineering and documentation in Confluence. You can do that out of the box, but you will have to do some workarounds, and that's where sort of these apps fill in some of those gaps and increase the possibility of the different use cases and solutions for which Confluence can be used, right? And we know a thing or two about it, having been built Confluence apps for almost 15 years. Um, but the challenge that we have seen over the years is, especially in larger organizations and enterprises, um, admins don't really love apps as much, and not because they don't appreciate what those apps do, but it's primarily because it comes with the overhead of making sure that there's no data leakage. There's making sure that the apps have access to the relevant information, that not everybody is using the apps, that they people who shouldn't be using it, right? So a lot of these concerns were addressed by the app access rules. Um, and this has something that was an ask from customers and especially admins for a long time, and it is now possible that if you install an app, you can specify, you can create sort of a policy from your Atlassian admin screen, and make sure that if, let's say, you want to install an app like Scroll Documents, which helps you do version controlling of your documentation, and you don't want everybody to be using it, or you don't want the app to have access to all the content in your Confluence, not that it asks for it, then you can specify that this app should only have access to space X, Y, or Z. And that way you can sleep peacefully at night, knowing that there is no accidental leakage of information or accidental usage of the app from folks that should not be using it. So yeah, definitely check it out if you haven't. And this would also be a great time to also reevaluate which apps are critical, which ones you need, and which one it's time to say goodbye to. It is available for Jira as well. I think it's on a Atlassian level. So not 100% sure, but it's a very sort of educated guess that it is available. But I can check it and get back to you. But I'm pretty sure it is a Atlassian-wide option for different apps. In fact, I would go on a limb and say that probably this was introduced first in Jira and then Confluence. It was, as I said, the underappreciated sibling getting the hand-me-downs from Jira. Access guard level. I don't want to say something that I'm not sure about, but I will have to check. I'm pretty sure like guard has more advanced thing, and this app access rule is not directly connected with guard, that you get this functionality without having to have guard and pay for it. All right. AI. If you haven't been living under a rock in the middle of the ocean on an island, it is everywhere, and people are using it for everything. And yeah, it's moving so fast, and everything starting from your everyday cereal breakfast to spaceships, everything is being slapped with AI. And Atlassian is not very different from it. And it just makes sense. It's about using AI and having AI functionality where it actually adds value to the tool itself. And I think Atlassian has done a great job at making sure that the AI functionalities that they've introduced is not just for the sake of adding AI everywhere, but they most of them really solve some important and difficult problems. Um, but I think before we dive into sort of all the different AI functionality, the key thing, the main advantage that we have found, and this is something that sort of cuts across the board, and which is the idea of content creation within Confluence, right? So, and when I say content creation, it might go into like, okay, a content team or marketing team, but when I say content, it's all kinds of content, whether you are writing your meeting notes, or you're creating a PRD, you're writing a blog post, you're writing an introductory post, anything that you write. I think what AI has done is really revolutionized that and really solved the blank page problem. Now, before Atlassian Intelligence, if you have subscriptions to all the different tools out there, ChatGPT, Perplexity, whatever, you would create it there and then copy that into Atlassian. But having the functionality out of the box, and I believe at this point it is only available for premium edition of Confluence. But I think there are intentions of providing some of this functionality to other tiers as well in some limited capacity. So yeah, the way that we have actually benefited the most from this is in the content creation way. And the way Atlassian Intelligence works, it's very well integrated within the UI, and not just with Confluence, but with Jira as well, just in case you were wondering. But it is really well integrated. So you have Atlassian Intelligence doing many different things. You can access it from a slash command in your editor. Just type in /AI, and it brings up an interface. And then you can do a lot of things there. You can check for the quality of your content, ask it to add new content, ask it to change the tone of the content. Yes, thanks, Ayushi. AI is available for premium and enterprise cloud. Again, another thing for our data center and on-premise users of Atlassian, the creation of this FOMO if you wanted to use AI with Atlassian tools. So yeah, and just content creation doesn't mean that it has to be in English. And what AI has also done is making it very easy for you to have multilingual content, right? So anything that you can do with something like ChatGPT in terms of content creation, you can do it here as well. And the best part is, like, if you're worried about data privacy and security, I think Atlassian has done a good job at taking care of that, documenting that well enough, and providing different features. And I think last year at Team, they also introduced this new AI-powered functionality called Rovo. And what Rovo is basically, it gives you access to AI agents. So like you would create, like if you have used ChatGPT, you can create these GPTs, which are like specialized sort of your personal assistants. You can give it a certain set of instructions, and then it is available to do that particular job well. So if you have Rovo, you will get a visual sort of WYSIWYG editor with which you can create your own GPTs and have it used across your organization as well. And Atlassian has extended that the GPTs or creation of GPTs to Atlassian Marketplace partners as well, who are creating GPTs to help complement what the capabilities of their apps as well. Ramesh, so like to create a robot chatbot that responds to user questions and recommends knowledge-based articles based on their questions. Is this? Yes. This is like the first probably use case, but you can do a lot more than that. So I would definitely recommend checking out Rovo. And what the other functionality of Rovo that they offer, and this I think is only available for enterprise edition right now, is that you can bring in, and it can help you surface and search across information that's stored across different tools. So it can look through your entire sort of Atlassian tool chain, but it can also, you can connect your other tools like let's say Google Drive or things like that, and it'll surface information across all of those tools. So do check out Rovo if you haven't. and it's, I think, available only for enterprises. Ramesh, where you can get help for it, very well documented. I think if you go to Atlassian's knowledge base, you should find the relevant information there of how to access it, how to create agents, and how to use and share it across your organization. Yes, Rovo also comes with a lot of predefined bots as well. Yes. So yeah, with these AI functionality, you can definitely sort of supercharge your content creation, but also other processes, and it really helps you get more done in a short span of time. And it, for me at least, it saves a lot of time. Um, but you, I would encourage everyone to use it. And there's a lot more functionality, like Atlassian Intelligence can summarize changes for your content. You can ask it a question like, what have I missed since X days? If you've gone on a vacation, and it'll summarize what has happened. So there's a lot of different use cases, and it's really well integrated, and there's more coming every almost sort of at a very high rate. So keep an eye out on it, try it out for yourself, and do share interesting use cases that you have used it for. All right, the next, my one of my favorite functionality within Confluence. Well, I think it's also Jira as well, but in Confluence is automations, and it is one of the best things to happen to Confluence, and it is one of those functionality, I think, for me, like one of the best implemented features. I feel, my personal opinion, is whiteboards, and after that is automations. Um, it's really well made. It's the team is I think the product manager is Avi. If you have seen him in webinars and stuff like that, he's a good friend of K15T as well, and the team has been working really hard on bringing really powerful functionality to Confluence. And they're also very receptive to feedback. So if you look at community articles and you share problems and issues, they're really open to it, and they're churning out functionality at a super speed. But the best thing that we have used it, or we in our experience, has been the using of automations to label your content. So this is the use case that we have found the most useful. And since the introduction of Atlassian Intelligence, it has kind of really supercharged that use case as well. So before automation, before AI, we rely on labels a lot. Labels are one of those underappreciated functionality that Confluence has to offer. It is super powerful. We've used it for creating reports around similar content, to classify content, to group them, to find them in a better way. And we also rely heavily on labels with our apps, which are used to publish content from Confluence. So we do put a lot of emphasis within our organization for people as best practices to add the labels wherever possible. But there were always there has always been challenges with labeling, right? So it's still a manual process. You have to rely, you have to trust that people will add labels, that they will add the right labels, they will find the right labels, they will spell the labels right. But at the end of the day, it turns out, you can have n number of spellings of a certain label, or labels always missing. So what we started doing is, and what you can do now, especially with AI conditions that were introduced to automations, is you can actually have a condition where Atlassian Intelligence will, you can instruct it, okay, look through the content of the page, and if the content relates to finance, it relates to HR, it relates to X product, then apply certain labels to it, right? So previously you could just automatically add labels, and now you can actually have more contextual information to make sure that the right labels are added. So Ramesh is asking, do labels allow spaces between words? No, they don't. you will have to have some sort of underscore or a dash, depending on what your sort of labeling strategy is. Again, labeling is another topic that we have actually like a whole deep dive content that you should find on our YouTube channel as well. Yeah, so definitely try it out. Automations, we've automations for pretty much everything, from creating recurring meeting notes pages in advance, to making sure that content is archived on time, to making sure that we get the um, notifications and reminders in Slack from Confluence. There's the possibilities are endless, and what automation also in general helps you do is now you can connect to events and react to events outside of Confluence. Something happens in Jira, do something in Confluence. Something happens in AWS, do something in Confluence. So all of these things are being unlocked every day. So if you are not using automations, I would highly recommend looking at it and just starting simple and then discovering the power for yourself. All right. One of my, again, yeah, it's very difficult to choose favorites. I had forgotten that I had this on the slide, but if I had to change my answer, this is sort of one of my top three functionalities. And so if you didn't know, you have something called a presenter mode in Confluence. So what that does is, if you are on a Confluence page and you hit R, it will open up the page in what is called a presenter mode. And just as an anecdote, like before we discovered this functionality, before this existed, the common tool that within our organization to share any kind of presentation was Keynote. Keynote or PowerPoint. So we mostly used Keynote. And I've always been a big fan of Keynote. I love using it, experimenting and playing around with it. But what we found out that it can be overwhelming for a lot of users. Not everybody, is a professional in using it. It has a huge learning curve, um, and the challenge then was that when we had, so we have something called Team Week every quarter, where all the teams get together, they share what they have achieved in the last quarter, what they're planning for the next quarter, and this was done through Keynote presentations, and it was a nightmare. Even though we had templates, people would still mess up the presentations. It was difficult to share those presentations because they lived in different drives. You have to deal with the fonts and icons and designs, and people started focusing more on the animations than the content itself. So there were a lot of problems. But once we switched to Confluence presenter mode, and on top of that, people would create presentations and then copy that information to Confluence, because that's where information lived and that's where everyone collaborated. And because collaboration was not as easy with Keynote, people, usually one person somehow became the designated Keynote creator, and they had to take the entire responsibility of collecting all of that information and putting it into this Keynote presentation and then sharing it. But with the presenter mode option in Confluence, all of that became so simple. It basically democratized creation of presentations. People did not have to worry about all of these different assets that is required, or creating it somewhere else. You didn't need a lot of learning curve because it's just creating a page. So it was quick to start. Super collaborative because it's on the page. You could use pretty much every collaboration feature that Confluence provides, which is like editing simultaneously, adding comments, layouts, and all of that, and simply hit R. All of the content is there in Confluence, so you don't have to do it twice. And it just made our lives so much easier, and we haven't turned back from it. So for every presentation, whether it's Team Week, whether it's Team Retro, whether it's a presentation of proposals, we do Confluence presenter mode for pretty much everything. And some learnings that we've had over the last years of using this Obviously, it's very free, so you can use it anyway. But recommendations there is basically you can use a basic template. You can create it. It's a page template, and then just people can copy it or create a new page with the template and just start adding stuff. Use some of the organizational or formatting tools that you have, like layouts. Use that, because I think that really helps in making sure that the content looks better in the presenter mode. And the best part is all of the other features that I talked about, whether it's smart links. You can just pull in reports from different tools, and they will be available on the page and in the presenter mode as well. And all sorts of interactive content, from GIFs to images to videos, all of that will be available. So it's pretty simple, and really takes away the stress and the anxiety of creating all these presentations. So yeah, a couple of things to note is like just making sure that the way the presenter mode works, it scrolls, but what it does, it'll focus on a particular section and then defocus the other section, so that you have that content. So what really works that we have found out is, like I've said, use the layout elements, but also you can use page dividers, which acts as sort of a marker for the presenter mode to make sure that that's where the focus will stay. And then when you use your keyboard shortcut or you scroll, it'll go into the next section. Confluence, it works really well. We basically try to break this feature and push boundaries with it. But if you, I would also highly encourage using it, and I'm pretty sure you will not go back to any of the other design tools for at least your day-to-day presentations. And definitely, if you use it, find it useful, please do share how you are using that as well. All right, Mani has asked how Scrum Masters can use Confluence and macros. Great question. I don't think we have content on that yet, but we have a series where we share sort of complex use cases like that, like using Confluence for project management and so on. So I would encourage kind of subscribing to the channel and keeping an eye out for the content. So we will be in the future, definitely we would probably share something like this. But there are different ways. And again, if you would like to discuss more about it, do reach out to me. And we can have a conversation around it as well. And I would also love to know how ideas that you might have in mind of using Confluence. But again, like I said, like very basic example I can think of is just using Confluence whiteboards for retrospectives. It's very simple to get started. The content will be there, and you can bring in your entire team to your retros, to the board, and you can work together on your retrospective. And that's like just the scratching the surface of how you can use Confluence for your as a Scrum Master. Sujit has mentioned that with standard license, you get only 100 executions per calendar month. Unfortunately, no workarounds. And even if I had, I would probably not share it live, or I'll have the Atlassian PM behind me. But as far as I know, there is no real workaround than to upgrade. Sorry. All right. Maybe I'll give it a couple of minutes. I think we are almost towards the end of the session. If there are some questions or anyone has any interesting use cases to share around things that we have already discussed, or just entirely new as well. Or just give a chance to everyone to take a sip of water. And this is also an excuse for myself to do that. All right. Again, keep the questions and topics coming in. So the next way, or the next functionality that really kind of pushes the usage of Confluence is public access. Now, Confluence, the popular opinion of Confluence that a lot of people have talked to is like it's a graveyard of information. People create these pages and content and put that and just lost forever. But like I said in the beginning, we have to rethink Confluence and we have to change that image. And one of the ways to do it is actually making sure that the information that goes into Confluence finds its way to people, not just within your organization, um, but outside. And this is where this sort of mind shift comes into play, that you can do a lot more with Confluence. Right? It's a knowledge management tool. It's a collaboration tool, and knowledge is not meant to be kept within the boundaries of an organization. Right? The whole philosophy of Confluence to start with was open by default, um, and sort of taking that principle and sharing the information with external stakeholders, your customers, your business partners, um, uh, basically kind of takes the usage of Confluence to a whole new level. Um, and there are so many use cases you can use it for. And this is also a space um, where we also have apps, and we are passionate about. We are passionate about making sure that the knowledge and information that's stored in Confluence doesn't just die there, but it makes its way to the right people that need that information, where they need it and when they need it. And Confluence really does a great job at making sure that some of that is possible. And then where it kind of hits the wall there, you can augment the usage using apps. Right. So the first thing that you can do is, or Confluence provides on cloud, is guest access. Right. So these are guest access are basically they you can make sure that for every, or the let me dial back. So guest access is like you can invite guests to your instance and make sure that they have only access to specific spaces, so that they don't have access to everyone. So you can invite guest access on a space level. You get 5 guest users per paid Confluence users that you have. So if you have, let's say, a 10 users license, you can invite up to 50 guests. Um, and it's also built with security and privacy in mind. So guests, you can control what the guests can see and what they can do within your space. So if they don't have access to something, like, let's say you have pulled in information from Jira, or you've pulled in information from another Confluence space, they will not be able to see that information. But this is a great way to kind of get things done. And recently, the way we have used this is to work with our customers on customer stories, um, or working with partners on co-marketing initiatives, right? So instead of doing a back and forth of PDF files or Word files, or doing this in Google Docs or some other tool, we just invite the guests. We work together on Confluence pages, get it done, and then publish it in different places. So kind of makes life a lot easier. Um, so this is one of the ways of how you can sort of open up Confluence or share Confluence outside of the boundaries of your tool. The second one is public links. So if you don't want to invite people into Confluence, even though they are restricted, you can enable public sharing on your site level. And what that does is it gives you an option. When you go into the share option on a page, you will see an option to create a public link. And then you can copy it and share it. And people who have the link, they can open up. They will not get access to anything else beyond that page itself. And they will see sort of a static view of that page without the frills of Confluence. So you will have the Confluence branding, but they will only see that content of that single page. It's a very quick way to share certain information of people who are not within your organization. I've seen Atlassian using it to share, instructions on different things. If you're collaborating with them on events, and there are instructions that needs to be shared, instead of giving everyone access to their site, they would just share a single page. This also takes care, it's built in a way that it is secure, so people will not see information that they are not supposed to see. And also, I think there is still a limitation that external pages, or this public pages, do not render certain apps and macros, I think, if they're built on Forge. But we can hope that those issues will be fixed. The next one is anonymized access. So if you, this is a common way where you want to share the content of your entire space outside of your organization. And the most common use case that we have seen for this is people using Confluence for their product documentation, their technical documentation, creating user manuals, their knowledge bases. So they would just create all of that content in a Confluence space, organize that in their space, and then just give anonymous access to that space. And then it is available to the public, and people can search for it, look for it, and then you just get a quick and easy public knowledge base out of the box. Obviously, it's a little bit more sort of let's how do I put it? Invasive. I don't know. I don't have a better word for it than sharing a public link to a single page, but it does help you, share more content at the same time. So yeah, people love it. People use it. There are people, and especially admins, who are very cautious about this, just because it kind of opens up things. But still has a lot of value, and you will find a lot of people using just this to publish their documentation online. The other ways that you can share content is using static files. So you can export your page or pages or space as a PDF file or a Word file. Confluence comes with the out-of-the-box options to do that. But here you can also use apps if you want more control, more power, more formatting options. And one of the apps that we have is Scroll PDF and Scroll Word exporters, which exactly helps you do that. It gives you a lot of options, helps you create your own templates to standardize exports in a sort of with a no-code editor, and really kind of amplifies the way you can share information from Confluence as well. So yeah, PDF, Word files. You can also export HTML. We also do have an app for that as well for different use cases. The other way is basically taking that idea of publishing your knowledge base online. So if you are not comfortable opening up your space to anonymous access, a good way to do that would be also through a certain app. And one of those apps, there are a couple of different apps that enable you to do that. And one of them is Scroll Viewport that we have developed. And what it does is basically helps you create a site, and the site lives outside of Confluence, and then you choose which content from Confluence should be available on that site. So instead of bringing people into Confluence, you just create this site, push the content that you want to this site, and then selectively show that information and share it online. And the most common use case, again, that we have seen, people creating knowledge, public knowledge bases, documentation sites, knowledge hubs, and so on. So peace of mind of not bringing people into your organization, but on top of that, provides you a lot of functionality, like you have full control over your branding, the design. It's SEO friendly, provides you with AI search as well. So you get a whole lot of things without having the stress of bringing people into your Confluence instance. All right, this next one goes out to all the Jira fans in the audience today. And also, if you are a fan of collaborating on whiteboard, like I've already mentioned, Confluence got a whiteboard functionality out of the box. But over the last years, they have been integrating the different Atlassian tools really well. And this is something I find really, really useful. And it's one of those use cases where using the tools within the Atlassian platform really starts to kind of fall together. And one of the best ways that we have found, and also this also goes out to Scrum Masters there, is you can bring in your Jira issues and your Jira workflow into Confluence. So if you are collaborating, you're ideating, you can use whiteboard for all of those unstructured work. You can have your workshops, collect ideas. You can bring in your Jira issues onto your whiteboard, just paste a link and it'll turn into a smart link. What you can also do is you can have, do your ideation, and then you can just select all your sticky notes on the whiteboard, and you can convert them into Jira issues as well. But a really fascinating use case is also like, yeah, as simple as if you have two Jira issues on the whiteboard and you just create a link between them, it will create a link in Jira as well. So it's a great way to kind of add those dependencies and making sure you have you do that a little bit more collaboratively, which probably would not have been possible in Jira itself. Another one that we have found really useful and can take sort of your collaboration to the next level is something called smart sections. So you can define a smart section on your whiteboard. So like this, you can create a panel and define that as smart section and say, okay, this smart section belongs to this sprint. You have all your ideation, you have all your issues there. And the moment you kind of pull in a certain issue into that section, it'll automatically get added to that sprint or that epic. So this is something that we've also found really useful. And again, shout out to our Scrum Masters. And you can sort of open this up. You have many different functionalities in your whiteboard as well. Like you have a timer, you have option for voting. Now Atlassian Intelligence is also integrated, so you can sort and group your different items together using Atlassian Intelligence. So kind of really taking that collaboration philosophy to the next level and bringing together the different tools that are built on the Atlassian platform. All right, then no more mega tables. Tables are a fundamental unit of content that gets created no matter what tool you're using, whether it's your Google Doc, whether it's a Microsoft Word. Tables are not going anywhere. And for the longest time, it was the only option to kind of create some sort of a structured content in Confluence. But they came with all of the disadvantages that static tables have. They can get out of hands. They're not dynamic. So if you've created and put information onto a table on a page, you can't really use it anywhere else, and so much more. So this was a pain that we felt at K15T long back. This is like even way before I joined K15T. And in fact, there was a project internally that we had created at that time. I think it was called, metadata or something, metadata for Confluence. I can't remember exactly. And didn't go anywhere. Many years later, we picked that project up again, and we built what we called Orderly for databases, which was basically what is now databases in Confluence. So we built Orderly, which was then acquired by Atlassian, and now it is a core part of Confluence. And it is basically like, if I had to just put it simply, these are like really dynamic and smart tables. Add-on, no, you can't, but you can do that with databases, right? So if you just add a simple table to your Confluence page, you cannot do that. But databases as a content type, you can add and configure it your way. So as the name suggests, it's a simple sort of database. You can define a structure. You can create your columns. You can define that structure for each column. You can select the different data types and completely sort of, for most part, replace your tables, right? So this way, what happens in this case, like you've seen, you have a lot of different options and different field types that you can add to your databases. It comes with functionality to filter content, which is also not possible in simple tables. You have different kinds of filters. You can filter across all the dimensions that you have there. You can hide content that you don't want, so you don't have to show all the 500 columns that you've added to a table. You can make sure that people only see what they need to see. And then also save those views as different views, right? So you can still have 100 columns, but then you can create views for different use cases, for different audience and different teams. Super flexible, and really puts that oomph to what tables have been missing. And the best part is you can simply copy the link of a database, put it on a Confluence page, gets embedded as a smart link, and you have available there. So basically you add your structured content in a database and you can use it across your Confluence instance. You can also link to a particular row of your database and put it on a page, or you can simply also insert a single value or a cell's value of your database on your Confluence pages as well. So it opens up a lot of use cases and make sure that the data is dynamic, gets and that you can use that content in different contexts. And this is also something that is actively being developed. In fact, this morning I saw some very interesting functionality that are going to come to databases. You'll be able to comment on database cells. You will probably will be able to have rich content added to the databases, and a lot. And I think this is available across all the additions that you have in Confluence. So you can just go and use that today. But one of the functionalities that we have really leveraged on is, so this is how you can showcase databases on tables on different levels. So you can add the entire table, or you can just add one particular view of the table, or you can do that for a particular entry. Can users see database content in pages from JSM? I'm not sure if I understand this question correctly. So are you asking if the databases are on a Confluence, JSM knowledge base article? In which case I would lean towards yes, because under the hood, JSM knowledge base is basically like a hidden Confluence space. So whatever you can do there, it should be visible. So one of the functionality of databases that we have really used is that you can build connections. So like a database, you can actually connect different tables through references, right? And we, in fact, built an entire sort of custom lightweight CRM where we created a customer table. We created a customer database, interactions database, companies database, and connected all of that. And that way, and we use Confluence pages to record all of the information and additional information about all the interactions or the meetings we were having with customers and so on. So really opens up the use cases for which you can use Confluence. Another of those instances where, just kind of shifting your mindset and looking for opportunities really opens up the different ways how you can use Confluence. And yeah, if you're worried about restrictions, they are also available, and you can control who can see, add, and edit stuff in your database. All right, that was a lot of talking, and these were just like scratching the surface. 10 things that you can do to get the best out of Confluence. There's probably 1,000 more. Probably there's more that you know and you have figured out. So I would definitely love to hear that in the Q&A section. But yeah, again, like I've said, if you are interested in learning more, or taking some of this information back to your team, we do create a lot of content on our YouTube channel, but we also have a Confluence collaboration hub. It's a content portal, content hub that we have created, and it is available. It's called Rock the Docs. You can find that, and you will find a lot of these articles, best practices, use cases, documentation guide if you want to use Confluence as a documentation tool, and much more in there. So do check that out as well. And I just saw, probably I missed a question. What kind of data can be stored in a database? All sorts of, so I think there's a lot of predefined ones. So you have like your dates, your text, users, you can link Jira issues and so on. So the sky is the limit here. Please share YouTube and Confluence based links here. So YouTube you can find here. So this is k15t.com/YouTube. And let me find the our collaboration hub. All right, copy link. And let's see if I can paste it here in the chat. There you go. And just a little trivia, this collaboration hub was also created using our app scroll viewport, the one that you can publish content outside of Confluence. And we actually create and manage all of this Confluence content in Confluence. So every page that you see in this collaboration hub is actually a Confluence page on our Confluence instance. And you can also create your help center. So our help center was also built with our apps as well. So yeah, I will not go and start advertising too much. I will let these portals and examples inspire you. But if you have questions around how those were built, how you can build some of those yourself, I will be more than happy to have a conversation around that. All right, with that, I will open up if we have time for questions. Thanks for already asking questions through the chat, but if there are more lingering questions or just points of discussion, or if you want to share your best favorite ways of using Confluence, this would be the time to do that. All right, then with that, thank you for listening, and over to you, Deepthi.
Thank you so much.